How does a Ford F-150 hold up after a couple of years and almost 30,000 miles? The answer is actually pretty surprising. The Ford F-150 is the best-selling car in the United States, with over 750,000 units sold last year alone. It's one thing to take a look at a vehicle and drive it for 10 or 15 minutes, but even living with it for a week or two will give you a completely different perspective. And I'm going to give you my honest opinion about everything from the interior to this EcoBoost engine. Let's take a look at how this truck has held up over a couple of years and talk about what it's actually like to live with, instead of trying to decide if it's worth buying from a video walk-around or a salesman demonstration on the dealer lot. If you enjoy automotive content and find this video helpful, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. The F-150 XLT has the 2.7-liter twin-turbo V6 EcoBoost engine with 325 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque sent out through a 10-speed transmission. It's not quite as powerful as the top-of-the-line 3.5-liter twin-turbo EcoBoost engine, but it's surprisingly strong considering it's an entry-level engine choice. With a 0 to 60 time of about 6 seconds, the truck has a surprising amount of power when it comes to acceleration. The engine has more than enough power for merging on the highway, accelerating with traffic and stop-and-go situations, and of course, plenty of power for hauling loads in the back of the bed and trailers. The horsepower figure of 325 is nothing crazy, but the 400 pound-feet of torque is really what matters for everyday driving, and especially towing. Maximum torque is available at just 2,750 RPM, which really makes a difference in terms of low-end power and really helps for everyday drivability and especially towing. For comparison, the 5-liter V8 puts out more power, but maximum torque isn't reached until 4,250 RPM, which is more in line of what you'd expect from a V8. The V6 isn't as smooth as a V8 when it comes to idling. For instance, at a stoplight with the AC on, you'll feel vibrations throughout the truck, but it provides a very smooth experience when accelerating and maintaining a steady speed. Shifts are overall very smooth and quick when accelerating. On a cold start, they can be a little abrupt, but as everything warms up, it quickly smoothens out. The 10-speed transmission does a nice job keeping the RPM low for fuel savings, and it's quick to drop a gear or two when accelerating if needed. Even with some miles on the dash, all shifts are smooth and predictable with no weird hesitations, unusual behavior, or bangs, which can sometimes occur with subpar transmissions, and even good transmissions at that. There's also a transmission temperature gauge, which is nice to keep an eye on when towing. As much as everyone loves a V8, this twin-turbo V6 is quiet and powerful, making it comfortable and easy to drive every day. Long trips are extremely comfortable, and you won't get sick of sitting in this truck all day long. It's easy to handle around corners, on the highway, and at low speeds, with minimal body roll compared to other full-size trucks. The steering is tight and smooth, and it doesn't require a ton of effort to turn the wheel, and the suspension feels great. This configuration has a very comfortable ride thanks to the 18-inch wheels and Michelin tires. Smaller wheels really make a big difference when it comes to ride comfort, as they have substantially more sidewall with a lot more rubber to absorb bumps and other road imperfections. Many trucks have 20 or 22-inch wheels, but they really affect the ride quality in a negative way. Bumps are absorbed well with this setup, and it really doesn't feel like a full-size pickup truck. Driving onto bridges and over railroad tracks is smooth, and the bed doesn't shudder without a load in the back. The suspension doesn't make any strange creaks, clunks, or rattles, which sometimes develop after a couple of years. Road noise is extremely minimal for a truck, especially a lower trim level like this one. There is a slight amount of wind noise that comes from the large mirrors, but it's surprisingly quiet overall. Michelin makes excellent tires, so that's likely a major factor contributing to its quietness, but the engine is also extremely quiet when not under a heavy load, making the overall road noise luxury level. The interior of this F-150 looks practically brand new, which says a lot after 30,000 miles. The plastics have held up really well to scuffing and scratching, and the overall build quality is surprisingly solid. The seats haven't lost any support, and they're just as comfortable as when it was brand new. They're soft and supportive with plenty of adjustments, making it easy to stay comfortable after long periods of time. The foam hasn't sunken in at all, and the fabric has held up extremely well, even on the bolsters, which seem to always show signs of wear, which is even more noticeable with leather upholstery. Everything works as it should, such as all buttons and features. Everything feels pretty solid, and I'd honestly have a hard time telling this one apart from a new one. The only issue with this interior is that some of the cheaper plastics tend to rattle and creak when driving. The door handles both squeak over small bumps, and the dashboard also makes some occasional noises. You might be able to get them fixed under warranty, but the noises are pretty widespread and not really isolated to one piece. It's not a big deal considering it's a cost-efficient interior, but something to be aware of if that sort of thing bothers you. The back seats are soft and comfortable with plenty of room for tall passengers, which isn't always the case, even on these full-size pickup trucks. For instance, panoramic moonroofs are nice to have, but they can really cut into the headroom, which is a problem for taller passengers. And many trucks have a huge hump in the middle of the rear seat, which makes it less comfortable for someone riding in the middle seat. This floor is nice and flat, and there's plenty of storage space under the rear seats. Aside from being a lower trim level and having to deal with some squeaking plastics, it's held up really well and is a comfortable place to be. In terms of the experience of other F-150 owners, like any vehicle, the F-150 has had its share of problems, but most owners haven't had any issues at all. The most important thing when it comes to long-term reliability is staying up to date on all maintenance. It's recommended to change the oil more frequently than Ford suggests, which is really important for turbocharged engines. Turbo engines produce a lot more heat than larger displacement V8s, which can really degrade the oil. The turbos also add complexity, and they have many small, intricate moving parts which can contaminate the oil faster, further accelerating wear. Also make sure other fluids are being changed routinely and not just the engine oil. Many people make the common mistake of only changing the engine oil and thinking that that's all that needs to be done, when in reality, this isn't the case at all. The differentials, transfer case, and transmission, among others, need to be serviced on a schedule, albeit not as often as the engine oil. I average about 21 miles per gallon in mixed driving, including a lot of stop and go, which isn't bad, and that's with a relatively heavy foot. The weather plays a big role when it comes to fuel economy as well, like if the truck stays warm in between trips or if it's being left out in the cold for hours before being driven again. These factors are usually in my favor, so if you're often doing short trips in cold weather, don't expect anywhere near this number. If you do a lot of heavy towing and are really taking advantage of the turbo boost, this will also tank the numbers. Between the 10-speed transmission and seemingly efficient engine, gas mileage is pretty respectable for a full-size truck with this level of capability and interior space and comfort. XLTs come in all sorts of configurations and start at a relatively affordable price and go all the way into the $70,000 range for a new one. You can get a reasonably equipped one with a sticker price in the mid-50s. This truck doesn't have much in terms of optional equipment, but you can upgrade to a larger infotainment screen, power sliding rear window, nicer wheels, and things like that. You can get a used F-150 XLT for quite a bit less than a new one, but you're going to want to make sure all the fluids have been regularly serviced. Many people will tell you that the 5-liter V8 is a more reliable, lower maintenance option, especially if you're looking for a used truck that already has a few miles on it. However, the torque, acceleration, pulling power, and everyday drivability of this engine is tough to beat, even though you don't get that V8 sound. Unsurprisingly, this truck hasn't had any mechanical issues at all, which it shouldn't considering it's only a couple of years old. But there's a big difference between hearing from someone with actual time behind the wheel and listening to a salesman try to sell the truck to you, whether it's brand new or 10 years old. I'm not partial to any truck and will give you my honest opinion about things. Beware of all reviews out there because some of them are glorifying the cars they're reviewing and not giving you an honest opinion. In terms of sales figures, the combined sales of the Silverado and Sierra from GM technically surpass the F-150. However, the F-150 consistently maintains its position as either the number 1 or number 2 best-selling vehicle in the United States for a reason. Offering a diverse range of trims, from work-level configurations to well-equipped versions, the F-150 caters to a wide array of preferences. Its interior is comfortable and quiet, handling is remarkably effortless for a truck of its size, and it delivers a smooth ride. With an impressive power output for this standard powertrain, respectable fuel efficiency, and commendable capability, the F-150 seems like a great option when looking for a full-size truck. Over the past couple of years, this one has proven to be very durable, and it will be interesting to see how it holds up in the coming years.